Please state your name for the record.
My name is Mary Ann Casey. My husband's name is Richard Weingart. I appeared in front of this board at your last meeting with regard to an incident that occurred on November 7th. A child at Anna Antolini School placed a weapon to our son's neck in a threatening manner. I do feel that to call it anything else would be highly insulting to the two Texas state troopers that shot and killed a student in their high school just a few short weeks ago using the exact same weapon. So to call it a toy is not something that will come out of my mouth. On November 10th, my husband met with our superintendent of schools with regard to this incident. I was out of the country at the time. He sat down to discuss with Dr. O'Reilly what had occurred. And at that time, Dr. O'Reilly assured, and I quote, "Mr. Weingart, you have my word, that you will know in advance of when this child is coming back to school." On November 16th, this board issued the child a mandatory one calendar school year expulsion with the ability to reapply for admittance no sooner than January of 2012. As I stated to you at our last meeting, due to the trauma our son has experienced and the difficulty he's having, we immediately started with private counseling. We also retained private counsel because our faith in the system at that time was greatly shaken, and we now understand why. On December 12th, our attorney, Alice Alfano, from Klebanoff and Alfano from West Hartford, sent a letter to Dr. O'Reilly requesting certain things, one of which was specific prior notification as to when the expelled child was returning to school. There were a few other items. If you don't have the letter, which I'm assuming was sent in your packet, I certainly can provide copies. It was stressed to the school administration and Dr. O'Reilly the importance of prior notification so that our son can work with his counselor to get readjusted and acclimated to this child's return. Remember, we had the superintendent's word and we trusted them. The morning of December 23rd, the last day of school prior to the Christmas break, I received a phone call in the morning from the school secretary advising me that the superintendent and Mrs. Shaw wanted to have a meeting with me on January 3rd. I inquired if it had anything to do with the November 7th incident and was told yes, in fact it did. I explained to her that we had retained private counsel and that all correspondence should go through her. Now, what's important to remember is on December 23rd, I was in and out of that school all day. As a room parent, I took part in the Christmas party all afternoon. I was in and out of the office. I saw Mrs. Shaw. At no time did anybody say, "Hey, by the way, hey, let me give you a heads up." Nobody indicated anything to me. And just so this board understands the depth of my son's anxiety, 2 days before Christmas, as we were driving out of the parking lot, was he thinking of Christmas? Was he thinking of presents? No. He turned and said, "Mom, do you think he'll be back after Christmas?" I knew who he was talking about, and I said, I think there's a really good shot that it'll be sometime in the not-so-distant future, but I promise you, we will know in advance and we will work with Dr. Perilla and we'll deal with it. Don't worry about it. On Christmas Eve morning, so keep in mind vacation has started. Christmas Eve morning, I received an email from Mrs. Shaw stating that the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the requests that our attorney had made in her December 12th correspondence. Now again, I'm still mystified why I'm being contacted directly. when we've retained private counsel. Everything should have gone through her. She also said to me that because I was having my attorney present, they felt that the school's attorneys should be present also. I agree, I have no problem with that. But that she didn't want to keep to the January 3rd date because she didn't know if Attorney Santiago was going to be available. Again, I understood. I wasn't concerned. We had his word. You can only imagine the depth and degree of my despair when not Mrs. Shaw, not Dr. O'Reilly, but a parent called me on the morning of January 3rd to tell me this child was back in school. Do you have any idea what that did to my son? Can you fathom the steps backwards that this child took? I was just so fortunate that I had the ability to drop what I was doing. I raced to the school, asked that he be pulled out of class and given a private room so that I could talk with him. The school and the administration might have let him down, but I didn't want his parents. I definitely did not want his parents to let him down, nor lie to him. And for over a month, we had been assuring him we were going to know in advance because we believed Dr. O'Reilly. We believed him. And it was just a common courtesy to give us notice. Now, the tactics that were used is nothing shy of an ambush. An ambush. Why would you do that to an 11-year-old child that's already having difficulty with this entire situation? Why? It begs the question. What person would want to inflict more pain on a child? I don't understand, especially someone in this position. It doesn't make any sense. We met with professionals over the past 2 weeks because we thought, are we missing something? What are we missing? How can this possibly be? And each professional said the same thing. There is no rhyme nor reason on why that should have occurred. Now, what I find even more disturbing is on December 23rd in the afternoon, Mrs. Casey's 5th grade class were all advised that this student was coming back. They took it upon themselves to notify them, but the kid who had the gun put to his neck, I guess, had absolutely no right to know he was returning. Makes no sense. Now, I understand that our superintendent is a master at smoke and mirrors. Please don't let him tell you that because I insisted on having my attorney present, that there was no time to notify me. Because keep in mind, I was given the choice of January 3rd, 8 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the afternoon, or 4 o'clock. The child was already on the premises, and so was my son. So that argument doesn't hold. Please don't let him use the excuse that because of the holiday, there wasn't any time. Remember, I got notification Christmas Eve day. Far be it for us to enjoy a holiday. Christmas Eve morning, when the vacation had already started, I received communication with regard to this incident. So that argument goes out. And last but not least, this veil of cloak that they've used because of the confidentiality, that argument went out the door when the 5th grade class was notified on December 23rd. I wish you could have seen the look on your attorney's face when she confirmed with Mrs. Shaw on the 4th when we finally did meet that in fact took place. It was pretty priceless. Even she, I think, found it pretty incredulous. How do you notify an entire classroom, but not the one kid who it really matters more than anything? I still don't understand how a 1 calendar school year expulsion resulted in just 31 days. But that's another matter, and that's a decision that I have no part in. But what I do have a part in is what happened to my son. And I'm going to give this board more than I received. We're putting you on notice that We expect to be filing a written complaint. We want disciplinary action taken against the superintendent. We also want a complete file on his personnel. We've spoken with the legal department on the state level. We know what our options are if you fail to do that. I've spoken with FOI. We are prepared to go that route if we don't get what we need. But I say enough is enough. How many more children are going to be damaged? And the cost and the price that my son is paying for this man's actions is inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. Now, I also feel very strongly that the board be aware, when the meeting was finally set up for January 4th, we received only one of our 3 requests that the attorney had made, just one. And I had to change my complete schedule, Attorney Santiago had to change her complete schedule, and Attorney Alfano. We all had things set up. The one person that didn't was Dr. O'Reilly, because he never showed for the meeting. So you can tell how important it was to him. I asked this board to do right by our family, and more importantly to our son, because enough is enough. I am tired of this and I am sick of it. I stated to you at the last meeting, I wanted to move forward. How do you possibly move forward? Especially since I had to send 2 more complaints last week with regard to things happening on the playground. How do you move forward? My son certainly can. And until this is resolved, I cannot sit by and watch this happen. And I sure don't want it to happen to any other family. No one in this town deserves it, nobody, but especially an 11-year-old boy.
Okay. Any other public comment? Did you want to say something about this?
What we do?
If you
Let me begin by saying that I am committed to open and honest communication in this district. And it is in this spirit that I have had numerous meetings with parents to help them understand the steps we took and the steps we plan to take relative to this unfortunate event. I have honored each parent's request to meet with me to discuss the situation and have spent numerous hours doing so. It is clear to me that there were aspects of this event with which parents and I had agreement, and there were aspects with which we had no agreement. When asked by certain concerned parents, I did agree to inform them about the return of the student who brought in the toy gun. I honored that promise to the best of my ability, given the constraints of student confidentiality rules and personal attorneys becoming involved. The board motion clearly stated that the date the student could return, January 3rd, upon meeting certain conditions, and the minutes were available to the public a few days after the board's decision on November 15th. Phone calls were made to the 2 parents who wrote to me regarding this event. These were made just before the holiday vacation when we knew the return conditions were met by the expelled student. One parent denied meeting with us without her attorney. Another parent agreed to meet with us the morning of January 3rd, at which time I indicated the student's imminent return on January 4th. To avoid awkward and potentially uncomfortable situations, students in the classroom were notified prior to December's holiday vacation that the student would return to the classroom on January 4th. In addition, as part of the district's response, I openly stated at the December 8th Board of Education meeting that there would be numerous actions taken by the New Hartford administration. I indicated that we would conduct an all-school assembly, an additional all-school assembly, for students on reporting violence, specifically to address the difference between being a tattletale and a concerned student. This has been scheduled for February 9th. I said we would conduct a staff meeting to review with supervising personnel the obligations they have as mandated reporters and review the appropriate responses to children who come to them with expressed concerns. This meeting was conducted in December. I said we would conduct an in-service for tutors regarding lunchroom and playground supervision with regard to the supervisory process, reporting of incidents, and the rules for student behavior. This was done on January 9th. All 19 tutors attended this 1-hour review session. I said we would review protocol for reporting violent incidences that occurred in the school, As directed by the Board of Education, this is currently being reviewed by the Policy Subcommittee. I said we would review the procedures for reporting security situation events. This too will be addressed by the Policy Subcommittee. I said we would review safeguards for all students prior to the return of the expelled students. This was done prior to the holiday vacation, and a transition process was established, including mandatory meetings with the administration and other pertinent staff on January 3rd. I said we would discuss with the school psychologist our response to students who may need to speak about this event. Anthony's school psychologist is aware of this potential need and has acted accordingly. This is a very unfortunate event, but as always, we are looking to make this a learning experience for all involved. After all, we are an elementary district, and we take seriously our job educating our very youngest minds and keeping them all safe.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and I don't know if this is appropriate, but I keep hearing the 4th of January. Dr. O'Reilly, was the child in school on January 3rd? Was he physically in the building?
I think we're not going to have it for the dialogue.
Well, I think for clarification
I think
purposes.
it's also stated you're represented by counsel, which also kind of complicates things.
No, it doesn't at all.
I think it does. So,
Oh my God.
we moved out at this point.
This is
In communications
unbelievable.
to the Board of Education, I don't have any notes at this point.